All right. We wanted to take this opportunity before the holidays to communicate publicly some of the major changes that are going to be taking place in our public transit system. As many of you know, Muni is the 7th largest public transit system in the United States, certainly the largest in Northern California. The system originated and initiated service in 1912, and it's gone through some incarnations up into including 1979. But the last time there was a dramatic change in this system was 30 years ago in 1979. We're about to experience the most dramatic change since, and that is going to be felt beginning December 5th, Saturday, in just a few weeks. It is absolutely incumbent now upon all of us to take the opportunity to share this information as widely as we possibly can, at peril of people showing up not just on the 5th on a Saturday or the 6th Sunday, but more challenging on the 7th Monday, and expecting their bus to be waiting for them or to be on time, and discover that we actually just changed the service hours and the service orientations, or in the case of the 9X, literally disbanded the 9X, and now it's called the 8X, and have changed literally the number completely. And that's why we are here. And that's what we're here to discuss, and the extent that we can dialogue with you. We look forward to dialoguing with you. We've spent the last few weeks doing banners, doing signs. We've been doing a lot of communication with our next Muni system, and you're going to see a lot more people out there as ambassadors and volunteers on the streets handing out flyers and information, not least of which the most important, and these are the service changes that are all incorporated into a pamphlet that is available in all kinds of languages that will lay out in detail every single change on this system. There'll be service reductions and there'll be service enhancements. The 38L, for example, will be enhanced. That 9X that becomes the 8X will actually have about 25% more service. You'll see some of our lines that we just don't think there's the ridership to justify the cost, and they'll simply be disbanded. There'll be bus stops, and you may recall about 2 years ago when we initiated our transit effectiveness program, I said the most controversial thing won't necessarily be a service cutback, it will be a bus stop that's eliminated. Well, there's going to be some bus stops that are eliminated, and I assure you I wasn't wrong 2 years ago, because some of the most controversial recommendations that are coming out, or actions that we're about to take, actually include the elimination of 5 bus stops, for example, in the Visitation Valley area. All of this is going to spark a lot of healthy controversy. And as I like to say, healthy controversy is the hallmark of healthy change. The only way to get this system to the next level is to make dramatic changes. If we want to continue to play in the margins, we'll get what we've got, and I don't think anyone is arguing for that. So I just want to prepare people, again, on December 5th, dramatic service changes that incorporate and encompass over half of the entire system. Literally half of the system will have an impact on December 5th. All that information is provided in pamphlets and information. You can call 311, and I encourage people to call 3111 to learn more about these changes, or go on our website, SFMTA.com, SFMTA.com, to learn more. And again, you'll see these brochures in the buses. You'll see a lot more outreach the week leading up to December 5th, and we will have another public discussion on December 2nd. So mark your calendars, because that's when people will really start focusing, and we'll go through in very, very detailed terms some of these service changes. So purpose today is just to get people motivated to know that things are about to change before they take off for the holidays, and when they come back, we'll remind you again, and we'll go through an exercise that, again, we haven't gone through since 1979. And there's a lot more happening in the next few years as part of this larger transit improvement effort, this TEP as we refer to it, which is something that we're very proud of, a promise that we made a few years ago, a promise that we're about to deliver. So with that, let me ask our director, Nat Ford, to fill in some blanks and then we are here to answer any questions and fill in some more specific examples of some of the changes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for convening this effort, and thank you to all of you for coming out. It is imperative that we get the word out about the changes that we're making. We're talking about 60% of the Muni system that you have experienced over the last 30 years is going to be changed on December 5th. That is a Saturday. We also have December 6th with its Sunday schedule change. And then we're very concerned about the Monday morning, December 7th, where we're going to see those 700,000 riders that we carry every day step out to a new system. We cannot underestimate the changes that we have made. Now, these changes were made as a result of some of the financial challenges that we faced over the past year. And I think we were very fortunate that we had begun the process over 2 years ago with the Transit Effectiveness Project. We began the process to pick up and to receive an unprecedented level of detail regarding our ridership patterns and the usage of our system and the design of our system. So as we entered into this era where we needed to make some changes to our service, we were able to do it from a very sophisticated, data-rich process and not doing it by feel. We actually did it by fact. Also, during that Transit Effectiveness Project's process, we had over 150 community meetings. So we got input from all of our stakeholders, our riders and business groups, as well as community groups that had an interest in the Muni system and how it was designed and what needed to be done in the future. And we also incorporated that information into the decisions that are leading us to the changes that you will see on December 5th. The 38 line, the mayor mentioned that earlier. When we talk about the Muni system, the 38 line and the changes that it will see, the 38 line carries about 54,000 people on a daily basis, literally making it the most heavily utilized bus route west of the Mississippi. So what we will be doing in that particular case is adding more service to that route. We do have crowding issues that we've dealt with over the years. We're looking at 15% increase in capacity during the peak periods, the AM and peak rush hours. So while we are making some adjustments as it relates to service reductions and truncating some lines and eliminating some others, we are reinvesting those resources into a more robust system, particularly on those lines that need additional service and or in some cases where we're adding new service, and we're very happy and proud of that. But again, I'd like to thank you for coming out and helping us get the word out. We're going to deploy over 100 on a daily basis, approximately 100 service ambassadors throughout the system to help people with these changes, provide them information, and then on the day of the service changes to be there to help educate and lead our customers to the right vehicle for their destination, the right bus or train. So with that, again, thank you, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Let me, just before we jump in, amplify another point. We also are going to be assessing the effectiveness of these changes. And over a 6-month period, we're going to be taking all of the complaints and concerns and the compliments and the comments and distilling them and aggregating them. So this is, again, a work in progress. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is fixed in our minds. We are open to argument. Again, 150 community meetings plus. I would argue maybe up to 200 community meetings. All kinds of surveys, advisory groups helped aid in this determination. But it doesn't mean we're right 100% of the time. And so I want people to know that they should feel free to comment. Use 311 as that call center for complaints or compliments. And we're going to keep a very sensitive ear to the ground about these adjustments. But again, when that says, I say over 50%, it really is closer to 60% of this system is going to be impacted with substantive change in just a few weeks. We've said this, we were going to do this years ago. Those that think it's too much or too soon, I would argue it's not enough too late. This should have been done 20 years ago. It should have been done 10 years ago. We've just taken responsibility in the last few years, and we're finally at that point, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. So with that, questions?
Muni's always been the goal of almost every mayor that I remember, but this is a very ambitious plan. Are you aware that you might run into some problems with it?
Of course. Now, let me just say a couple things. I don't know that people know this. We have the highest on-time performance we've ever had in history. That bar is low. I'm not naive. I know that. but we've had the highest on-time performance in history this last fiscal year. And if you look at the last 3 or 4 mayors, with respect, even where we've been above 70% pretty consistently in the last 5 years. If you take out the cable cars, though, people don't appreciate this. Take out the cable cars. The system is running a much higher clip. But you got to be fair, apple to apple comparison. But the cable cars really drag down the overall on-time performance. Most of the bus and the trolley are doing actually much better than that 30 or 73.5%. That being said, big deal. That's great. You're playing in the margins. What about order of magnitude change? I was the sponsor of the creation of the MTA in 1999 as a supervisor. I got in the middle of this Muni debate as much or more than any elected official outside of Mayor Willie Brown at the time. We put together in that proposal some very ambitious performance goals that were 85%. So we're not there yet, not even close. So my long-winded answer to your question is, it's order of magnitude change. Creeping mediocrity is not going to work. And with budget deficits looming and the challenges of an environment where you're looking at reducing the number of mechanics, potentially, and operators and PCOs, people aren't going to put up with a downward spiral. So we're going to have to challenge the status quo, and being aggressive is the only, I think, solution. The biggest risk is not taking a risk, I should say, in this context.
You with the new deficit?
No, this booklet stands as is. I mean, we're working on the deficit, trust me.
Yes.
Every other day, this poor guy is in. We've been working for the last few weeks. Those first few weeks when you couldn't find me, we've been working on this deficit, and we'll get there. Remember, we wouldn't have a deficit if the state didn't make all those cuts. We would have no deficit. There'd be no issues. So with all due respect, I think we should be pointing some fingers up north in Sacramento, or at least east and north. But that being said, that doesn't matter. No one cares about excuses. They care about getting things done. This thing, though, will not be impacted substantially by our need to address the budget deficit.
Given that the TEP was adopted in July, and the situation in the budget, both in the agency and also in the city, has gone south, are we looking at a TEP2 or son of
No,
TEP?
well, this is not the implementation of TEP. What this is are decisions and changes that have been aided and benefited by the analysis that was done under the TEP. Imagine if we hadn't gone through the TEP, we didn't have Julie and others with all these hearings, we'd have a deficit and we'd say, well, we'll cut this, without the data to back it up and with just anecdotal evidence. But the TEP is still moving forward. There are enhancements that certainly came out of data we collected that are part of the TEP, but we were hoping to be in a different position, no question, when we initiated this a couple years ago. So we're not going to give up on the TEP, quite the contrary. And remember, we have a 5-year implementation plan from 2011 to 2015. We got this consulting firm, they're probably here, BP America, that helping implement it. We put $3 million up for this transit effectiveness plan to study this. It was done under Prop C dollars in 2003. The Controller's Office basically funding the majority of these dollars for audits and data collection in partnership with the MTA and partnership with the city.
You also oversee the police department, and I think a lot of people are wondering about violence on Muni, which has been kind of a problem. So you're overseeing Mr. Ford, but also the police who patrol Muni. Any changes coming to make Muni safer?
Well, here's a couple of good things. Homicide rates are right now at a 30-year low, potentially. They're down 55% from previous year. Violent crimes down double digits, which is the 5th year in a row. Our clearance rates are among the highest they've been in 15 years. And actually, crime on Muni is down. But that doesn't make a darn difference if you're that 11-year-old kid that I visited in the hospital that was stabbed. Or it makes no difference if you were robbed or pickpocketed on the 14 mission. And so it's right to be concerned about the safety on Muni, and it's right for our new police chief and the new deputy chief, Murphy, to focus our attention on these hotspots using a CommStat strategy of not just policing on our streets, but policing on our Muni system, our public transit system. And I feel like they have a very good plan. I feel like they have got a good approach. And I think you saw in early November when we went out to go after all those fare collections, where we had over 525 or so people cited, that we are stepping it up, not just in reaction to yesterday's hearing, but have been stepping it up in the last few months.
Related story. Can I get your thoughts?
Why don't we do that right after we do the Muni stuff, and then it's all yours, before I get stung by this bee.
A follow-up to the crime question, if I could. What is already being done to make Muni a safer system to ride, and will these changes make Muni easier to police or tougher to police, or will there be new policing strategies that come along with them?
Yeah, I don't think it will make it any more difficult to police. I think that these changes are really about the public. 700,000 daily boardings, 60% of all the routes being impacted. Someone is going to wake up on Monday morning, December 7th, outraged, and they're going to call the mayor's office, and you're going to be running there with cameras on Monday saying, so-and-so complained about this, and people say, I never heard a thing. And I'm going to say, remember that discussion we had and you wanted to talk about that other thing? Well, we need your help to disseminate this information so people are aware, and so people are making adjustments to their schedules. That being said, I don't think any of the security efforts that are underway will be impacted at all. Most of the lines where the 38 will be expanded a little bit, about 15%, the 38L, but the 14 mission's not being impacted. The 14 mission is our top priority in terms of security and enforcement. My bigger concern about Muni safety, candidly, comes with next year's budget deficit. I'm told that there's a supervisor today that's looking at doing a de-appropriation for the police department. News to everybody. Those are the things that concern me more about our ability to follow through on our promises to the public that are riding public transit. And I think Nat Ford has got a good plan in partnership with a new deputy chief that came over to Muni just recently. And I don't know if you want to amplify.
Yeah. Well, I've had a chance to talk with and meet with Chief Gascon as well as Deputy Chief Murphy, and there is a heightened and concerted effort, and I'm very pleased and satisfied with the programs that they have presented to the MTA at this point, and we feel optimistic that we'll get this whole issue in terms of the crime issues with Muni taken care of. They are very aggressive, and they're also very inspired about being able to fix the problem. And so while our trend overall with crime is heading downward, no crime is acceptable on this system. We need to have an environment where our customers feel safe and that we feel comfortable that our children and our loved ones are able to ride the system and get home safely. So we're working very hard in that regard. And to follow up on the question, the service changes here will not have an impact in terms of making it more difficult for crime prevention.
To fight crime that are working?
Excuse me? No, right now we are maintaining the same level of operators for the system. What we have done and worked with the schedule development so that we're able to maximize the amount of service hours that we're able to provide to the system. So while in some cases we are, again, truncating routes or eliminating some routes, we're adding back service in some other areas. So we still need the same level of operators, and in fact our actual service hours are about the same. The actual hours of service are the same. They're just being readjusted and redeployed where we see the greatest need for the greatest number of our passengers.
Drivers, there are some who do not take any action when there is a violent occurrence on the bus, and also there are drivers who don't stop for you even when the bus is empty. What is being done about that?
I think with our operators on a daily basis as well as on a quarterly basis, they're facing on a monthly basis, they're facing challenges. However, we expect them to report any unusual situation that they see, and particularly a crime or something that's happening to one of our riders. So that is an ongoing effort along with the police effort to make sure that all of our operators understand that they understand their responsibilities to make sure that our system is safe.
Security. Are there specific things that you guys are doing that are working to keep passengers and operators safer on the buses?
Well, I think clearly this whole idea of really policing the hot spots, the past practice has been a deployment across the city, trying to make sure that we had an officer riding on Muni at some point during their shift. the resources aren't there to do that. I think the resources are better utilized when you position them where you see not necessarily crimes, but activity that leads to crimes. And I think that's the philosophy of Chief Gascon, that's the philosophy of the Deputy Chief, is to redeploy their resources, limited resources, where they see crime starting to develop or happen. It's sort of the broken window situation, where once you see a broken window, you'll see 2 next week, and you'll see 3 next week, the following week if you don't take care of it. And the idea is to focus on data collection and then deploying your resources accordingly. So I feel confident. It's worked in other cities, and it's worked with other transit systems. It'll work with Muni.
And let me say, you've heard this thing called ComStat. What's significant about ComStat and using a system of data collection in terms of addressing crime is the predictive nature of the utilization of that data, meaning you can determine in advance crime trends by looking at historic trends, time, manner, and place. You look at hours of operation where over the past years you can anticipate that there may be a spike, so you put more officers in a prophylactic sense to address it. So ComStat will have, I think, a huge impact in terms of addressing some of those safety concerns in the next few years. Well, you got a lot of vandalism, you got a graffiti, you got people the fare evaders are the biggest one, of course, we're trying to address, and that's a crime. That's just taking money out of the pocket of people in this city, because it's got to come out of someone's pocket. It may come out in terms of a fare increase because we're not collecting all the revenue that we should be. But vandalism remains the primary issue. And then it's the more violent nature that sometimes is, it's self-evident to you, that rears its head in terms of a lot of the concern that folks have.
The crime?
No. Oh, in terms of the predictive nature, no. That's a determination based upon trends. But again, you look, we just launched ComStat in San Francisco in a more robust way for crimes. And we talk about putting cops on the dots. The dots are where crimes are occurring. And over years, you use that data, and you translate that data and use that data to create a predictive model of policing. So you can note that on the 14 mission during the month of October, on Wednesdays at particular hours, there's been historically a trend of higher violence. So instead of waiting for that and reacting to that, you put more folks out there in anticipation of that, and as a consequence, you reduce the likelihood of that crime occurring. There's no one thing that tips that consciousness or expectation. It's a multitude of data that's collected.
I'd like to do volunteer work to help Muni. Is there such an agency?
Yes, there is, and you get to do that in 2 weeks by being one of our ambassadors that will walk the streets with pamphlets telling everybody about all these wonderful changes, as well as some lousy changes, depending if you were impacted. And again, you're either going to love this or you're going to hate it, because if it makes a difference, if it's 38L, you're going to like these changes. But there's some changes that you are just going to be outraged by. Your bus stop that's been there 30 years.
I don't care if the buses move, as long as they're safe and the drivers stop when they're supposed to.
The drivers are right behind you to talk. Oh, look at them hiding. I apologize for that.
They need to stop.
You got to talk to your friendly driver. He looks friendly too. Okay. Well, the press conference looks like it's over. I'll talk to the driver. Say thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. So, volunteer, huh?
Is there a target?